King Philip II of Spain!
King Philip II of Spain!
Of Spain!
To celebrate the release of Bill in UK cinemas from the 18th of September, we sat down with the writers and stars of the film, Ben Willbond and Laurence Rickard, to talk about making Shakespeare funny.
What are you doing in a pie?
It's a disguise. Or one might say, a despise.
Going to start with a very obvious one, you've probably been asked it a lot. What's your favourite Shakespeare play?
Good one.
We have been asked it, and it's one of those questions where every time you think you've come up with the best answer, someone else says one, and you go, "Oh no, that's great."
I think mine's Much Ado.
Yeah.
I love that. And I love every adaptation I've seen on it. Of it. It's just so. I don't know. It's just so vibrant and cheeky, and I love all the kind of misunderstandings. It's perfect Shakespeare.
The balance of the plot in Much Ado is great. The balance of the plot between the two disciplines.
I mean, it's just it's great.
Intriguing one. A lot of people aren't too keen. I really like King Lear as a dramas, but I like Merry Wives of Windsor just because Falstaff is just such a brilliant idiot. As you may have noticed, we quite like idiotic characters, so he's up there.
I kind of noticed, yeah. So why did you guys choose to do Shakespeare as your film? Why was that the historical area you went for?
The honest answer is that when we first started talking about film, he was the most obvious place to start with in history. It's like, well, everyone knows about Shakespeare, so
He's kind of a touchstone character. You don't have to introduce him.
Yeah, you can go, oh, it's a film about Shakespeare. Okay, fine, I get it.
And also, the history of Shakespeare is sort of really enticing for us as writers because there's this black hole in his life, and people know what happened in his early life and in his later life, but there's these sort of few years in the middle where no one's got a clue. So that's a really intriguing little hole into which you can put anything. So we put a really silly sort of story into it.
Talking about the lost years, what do you think he actually did? I mean, do you think he did this? He was a veg seller.
I mean, yeah, I think
he
he definitely dressed up as a tomato. And no, I mean, I think that's what's great about it because it's one of those things no one will currently, unless there's some great research uncovered, no one can tell you we're wrong. We might be right. I think it's unlikely. I think it's probably like what happened with most writers and actors when they try and start out, which was a few years of struggling and living in London and trying to make ends meet while he gets into acting and writing.
Some great evenings seeking out the drinking dens of various writers and, meeting Marlowe and meeting Johnson and meeting all these interesting people, I'm sure. And I bet it was really cool. I'd love to go back there and see
it'd be nice to have
and then leave really quickly so I didn't get ill.
This goes great into my next question. In terms of accuracy, obviously you've made up a lot of the facts of what Shakespeare was up to, but on a scale of 1 to 10, with 10 being you travelled back in time and you double-checked, and 1 being Braveheart, how accurate is the movie?
I think we can say surprisingly accurate. The story is clearly ridiculous, but where it's being silly, it's so clear it's being silly. I think what we tried to do with the backdrop of it historically is be quite accurate what was happening politically, and King Philip of Spain, ridiculous character, but he was constantly trying to kill Queen Elizabeth or dethrone her and sort of convert England to Catholicism. And to say, in terms of what we've done with Shakespeare's life, apart from our silly plot in the middle, the bookends of that story are pretty accurate.
And we tried to make we said to our design that we wanted it to be as filthy and look as dirty and cold and horrible as it was.
Feel like
you're there.
There was a lot of grime in the background, and there's a lot of very sort of out there jokes. You had jokes about prostitution, suicide, and one about pornography. I mean, this is an all ages comedy ostensibly. How far was too far with those sort of jokes?
I think it's a rule. We try and have this sort of rule where most things can be read innocently, and there's very few things where you look at them and we're telling you something that you didn't know. So there are parents who are going, well, there was a slightly awkward conversation on the train where they were going, we didn't understand that bit while you were laughing, but it's not that they've suddenly been taught something awful. It's just that there are a couple of moments which might go over some children's heads. But I mean, I think we've always tried to do things. Same with the Underland, where there's jokes for everyone. And then there's jokes for a slightly younger audience and some which are more for the adults. But I think there's hopefully a mix.
Yeah.
That's something that obviously has come from, your TV work as well. What was the big sort of difference coming from a TV background going into sort of a feture film? Or was it just literally just making it bigger?
Time. No, I think it's just the narrative, like, writing a narrative of that length is a big step up because you've got to it's real trial and error. But then once you've cracked it, it feels great. But it takes a long time to write a screenplay.
Yeah,
It takes a long time.
just to kind of lay out the plot and beat it all out.
And we made all the mistakes. You know, we went down all the.
I mean, there might be
dead
people who
ends.
go and see this and say all the mistakes are still in, but believe me, we've trimmed out about 99% of the mistakes.
We hope.
No, I was going to say it's a very looping screenplay. At the end, everything comes together quite well. What's next? Like, are you going to use one of your earlier ideas and do that as a film, or are you going to go?
Well, we're working with BBC Films again on another screenplay. I cannot tell you any more about it than that.
So yeah, it's very funny.
Yeah, it's really.
There's a really good bit with I can't even say that. That's terrible, isn't it? That's worse than not answering the question.
It's fine. It's fine. We'll edit it in something interesting.
Great, thank
okay,
you.
last question. How hard was it to not make a joke about Anne Hathaway?
Quite hard.
Yeah.
We got that all
That was
out of our
very-
system,
It's-
actually.
It's really
early on.
interesting. It's particularly with kids when we're doing screenings and previews and things, and we say, and this is of course Martha who's playing Anne Hathaway, and that's a really confusing concept. We're going, but she is an actress.
Yeah.
Why you got an actress playing another actress?
Yeah.
But no, I think we really early on
Yeah, we got that out.
toyed with and rejected the idea. It's a bit too anachronistic.